This is iDesign Lab, a podcast where creativity and curiosity meet style and design. Curator of interiors, furnishings, and lifestyles. Hosted by Tiffany Woolley, an interior designer and a style enthusiast, along with her serial entrepreneur husband, Scott. iDesign Lab is your ultimate design podcast, where we explore the rich and vibrant world of design and its constant evolution in style and trends. iDesign Lab provides industry insight, discussing the latest trends, styles, and everything in between to better help you style your life through advice from trendsetters, designers, influencers, innovators, fabricators, and manufacturers, as well as personal stories that inspire, motivate, and excite. And join us on this elevated, informative, and lively journey into the world of all things design. Today on the iDesign Lab, we're joined by the extraordinary Kimberly Wick, co-owner of Costume World, the largest theatrical costume operation in the country. A visionary in set and costume design, Kim also serves as artistic director of the Wick Theater and has led every costume museum exhibition since 2010. From Broadway to Boca Raton, her work preserves theatrical history while inspiring audiences through immersive design and storytelling.
Welcome to the iDesign Lab podcast. Today we are having an amazing conversation. It's already kind of began, but we have Kimberly Wick here, who has designed a really fascinating career around costume and theater.
Costume theater.
Yep.
And a family business and a lot of other juxtaposition that happened to start at their kitchen table having to do with the Santa costume. So let's kind of start there.
Tell us how your family started a costume business at the kitchen table when you were how old were you? Kids?
I was. We lived in Boca Raton already, and I was about 9 years old.
And you had a sister, Kelly.
And my sister Kelly, and my mother and I, and it was a little bit school project,
right?
A little bit my mother's significant other companion needed something for this Christmas event.
Right.
He used to kind of pass out his bonus checks every year dressed as some crazy costume. So he needed a Santa, and Kelly and I needed a project, and so Mom said, "Well, we're going to make one." I mean, I think
make a Santa costume.
Make a Santa costume. I mean, the best part is that my mother can't sew.
Well, I was going to wonder where even any of the sewing background
Nor did
came.
I, but I liked to fiddle around with, making little pot holders and silly little stuff, when you're 9 years old.
Right.
And that Santa suit that he wore, when we laundered it and put it on our clothesline in Old Floresta, all the neighbors wanted to borrow it. And lo and behold, back then, the Boca newspaper came by, took a picture of the Santa suit on a clothesline out in
like
the
Santa
between
lives
two
in Boca
palm trees, like he's retiring in Boca, and everybody wanted to borrow it. My mom's like, for $25 you can rent it, and Kelly and I really kind of had fun with it. We were really little, but we knew, what was up.
Well, and that entrepreneurial spirit was very
my mother
young.
was involved and ran a very successful construction cleaning business at the time. Which is, all guys, beat the pavement every day, construction sites, blah, blah, blah. So this was kind of like a fun little diversion / hobby. And we did have a housekeeper at the time, and she was a pretty capable seamstress. She actually taught me to sew a little bit more than my grandmothers had.
Okay.
And so we my mom dove in with 2 feet. Obviously, we weren't making decisions at that age, but my mom loved it, and it was unique. And we took my mother's construction cleaning office in Pompano on Powerline Road, which back then was a gravel road.
Right.
And she moved the little office where the girls were in the front, moved them to the back of the building, and in this front room, which was maybe 20 by 20, she set up a store, and she called it Holiday Showcase. And in it, we had our Santa suits, and then at Easter time, we had Easter bunnies. And we had all little novelties and things, and we would go to the New York show. I remember the first time my mother ever went to the New York show to buy stuff for our store. She went with a girlfriend, and they drove in a big wagon,
station
wagon,
right?
And filled up the car with all this stuff and brought it back.
But what kind of stuff? Costume stuff?
No.
Trinkety
like
things?
little trinkety things, like,
like gimmicky
some costumey things, like, novelty nose, for Rudolph,
right.
and antlers and stuff.
There was no Target back then. There was no
and nobody sold costumes. There was no such thing as Party City and
so
all
true.
of that insanity.
Yeah.
So, so sure enough, we turned that little store, our 20 by 20 store, and people would line up. And then we had this thing called Halloween, which was, until then, you bought your costume at the 5 and Dime, and it came in a box with that little thing with the mask on the top, and you put the mask and the jumpsuit on, and you tied it around your neck, and you went out dressed as a robot or this or that. Well, my mother's idea, and of course it was starting to happen, was to have, a real cape for Dracula and a pair of fangs and a medallion for your neck and all the little parts and pieces. And, I mean, she's not the only person that was thinking of it at the time, but it was kind of transitioning then. So that's what we filled our store up with at Halloween. And I'm not exaggerating. I swear to you. People would line up on Powerline Road.
Oh, I believe it.
In the dirt with the trucks going by and all that white dusty, nasty, flying everywhere. And my mother would have entertainment outside.
Really?
Gosh,
she's so
I
mean, this is one of the things we missed. She literally would buy from a manufacturer somewhere little clear bottles with a lid, and we would put water in the bottles and give them out for people waiting in line because it was hot.
The line was that long?
It would be 100 people deep all the time. We had entertainment outside entertaining them. We usually would have a clown on Saturdays and a juggler or something. One time my mom rented this guy came in like a Batmobile and did like a little Batmobile thing while people were waiting outside. They loved it. It was like a party.
Right.
And eventually, things just grew and grew. We ended up having a showroom and starting to make our own things. We started buying costume houses around the country. And if they were in a decent location and had some potential, she would turn that store into one of our
Halloween
stores.
And
costume stores, not just for Halloween. Yeah.
But did it start with Halloween first?
Well, it started with Christmas first, obviously Santa, and then it grew to Halloween, and then it just kept on growing. And back then, at one point, we had 9 stores open across the country.
Right.
And our store in Dallas, Texas just closed a year and a half ago. It was 10,000 square feet.
Jeez.
Our Austin, Texas store was 10,000 square feet. There's a lot of theater.
You had one in Philadelphia? And
2 in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I remember that.
We had a store in Atlanta for a very short period of time, but we ended up selling it and somebody else.
So it became like the biggest costume
Sure. And at the
stores
time,
in the country.
Now you'll love this, Sears didn't have Halloween. So Sears tried hiring my mother to set up Halloween stores in all the Sears stores around the country. And she was like, that sounds like too much work. So instead we opened 9 of our own stores. It makes no sense. But remember, we were collecting all this wardrobe from different costume houses. Mm-hmm. And we knew, and my mother had a lot of foresight, always, that the rental business couldn't just be Halloween. It couldn't just be Christmas. It couldn't just be Easter. It had to be theater.
Sustainable.
And sustainable throughout the year. Or else she'd never be able to get out of the damn cleaning business, the window cleaning business.
Was she still doing that?
She was. She did both of them for years.
Okay.
We used to have jokes. So she had like a painter's hat. My uncle was in the paint business. His office was there too. We were all under one roof. And that was on Copans Road. And we eventually named the company Costume World.
Right, I was going to ask you, so where did that begin and how far from the little Copans Road office to become Costume World?
Yeah,
well it was Powerline.
Or Powerline.
Because in Copans was a big place.
A big store, And my mother's office was upstairs, and she oversaw everything. It was probably around 10 years in that we became Costume World. And she basically told all the staff to come up with a name. And one of our employees, Bonnie Cat, God rest her soul, she passed away during COVID. She was just full of energy. She's like, Costume World should be the name. And of course that became the name.
Yeah. She
got $100 for naming the company. But
And were you always along since you started this at
Always.
9
My
years
sister
old?
and I-
This just
my
became
sister and I were
something as a
always there.
hobby. You spent your weekends
We
probably
were the
doing
Three
this.
Musketeers. So after school, our housekeeper or my aunt would pick us up from school, and we would go to Costume World, then, and or before then even, and we each had our own little space where we would do our homework and all that stuff, and then we would help price merchandise, and we got to merchandise, the walls and, the stuff that kids just, she was our mom. Our father was, they had been divorced for many years. So she was our mom and our dad, and we spent all of our time with her, and we really were the Three Musketeers.
So you really, I kind of look at it
We
as,
grew up in it.
Yeah.
you almost had two businesses. You had the costume for people who wanted costumes to go to parties and so forth. But then you grew it into a business of costumes for Broadway and performing arts and theater, and that itself became a very huge aspect of the business, and now has an enormous amount of value in terms of the collections that you've
We bought our first. Well, first of all, just to clarify, because I don't want to mislead your listeners, we don't do Broadway shows. What we do is buy the Broadway wardrobe when the show closes, and we're one of several people that bid on those wardrobes.
Okay.
Sometimes we get it, and sometimes we don't.
Right.
Often now we have such a relationship with many of these designers.
Are they auction houses, or how does that happen?
Well, it's usually just kind of the producers. They kind of put it out in the marketplace.
Okay.
The show is closing.
So a Broadway show is closing. What's the reason why you're buying?
Because once it closes, now the regional market gets a chance to do that show.
Okay.
All these professional equity theaters around the country.
Right.
So now is an opportunity for us to jump in and grab that wardrobe and put it in our warehouse, and then we facilitate renting it to theaters all over the country. We own Beautiful, the Broadway wardrobe now. Of course, we just did it at the Wick, but we have it rented several times already to other theaters around the country. So they'll send us their measurements. By the way, we've been doing that since 1978.
That is...
No, other rental houses have never done that. We have seamstresses. The measurements come to us. We measure and alter the wardrobe, make sure that it will fit the cast member, take a little tuck here, tuck there. Of course, repair, make sure that everything's in beautiful
and then
order.
Ship it out to...
Pressed, bagged, inventoried, and it goes to the theater. And when the costumer at the theater opens up that box, she says, "Oh, well, this is for Peggy Sawyer. It's got her name on it, what scene she wears it, blah, blah, blah. This is her second costume. This is her third costume. This is her finale." And it's like that with every character. So we really are a tool for a theater around the country. And that's also why it is such an effective tool for high schools. Because we also do high school
these days. With the
it's
costumes
unbelievable.
from these.
Some of the high schools, their shows are
unbelievable.
My God, better than our show.
It's crazy.
It's crazy, and there's so many talented kids. We're really lucky. We're in a fortunate market with supporting family members that love their kids being in the arts, and so it's contagious, and the kids just thrive.
Last night we were at an award ceremony for our kids that coming the end of school, and it was the Performing Arts Awards. So it was all the kids that best singer, best actor, best actress,
thespians, all.
And your girls won every award.
Not every. They got a couple. But
but we are really lucky. We are surrounded with a community that loves the arts. Many of them from former New York City natives, where they're surrounded by the best theater in the country. Maybe in the world.
Broadway.
And they come here, they demand the best, but when their children and grandchildren are excited about it, they nurture it, they support it.
It's so important.
And it makes the arts really great here because of it. And they even if they don't have children and grandchildren involved in the arts, they support the art that's in our town. And it's not just the Wick Theater, it's also Delray Beach Playhouse and Kravitz and the Maltz and Broward Performing Arts and of course Slow Burn and all the way down into Miami. I mean, I have patrons that are patrons at the theater, have been subscribers for 10 years, but they also subscribe to the Arts
all
Center.
of the other ones.
I mean, they drive all the way to Miami to see art, to see what they love. They also go, to all these other theaters all around. I mean,
It's
we're
such a
really
healthy-
lucky. We're really lucky to have so many
really are.
supportive members of our community.
So how did this costume world bring you to like owning a theater?
Well, we have been purchasing Broadway wardrobes starting in about 2000. I think our first show was Bells Are Ringing, 2002 or something like that. And we put it in our wardrobe, and we solicited the professional theaters, and it got booked like 5 times. Paid for itself like very quickly. So my mom's a numbers girl, like, you know, most business people. You have to have some of
Such
that.
an
It can't just all be
entrepreneurial
for fun.
spirit, yeah.
And she said, well, the math here makes sense, so we got to just keep on buying. So we kept on buying. Our largest acquisition was in 2005 when we bought 28 wardrobes from Dodger Production and Holding Company in New York. They are the folks that had won, you know,
How
50
many
Tony
items
Awards.
is that? I mean,
It's 15 semis.
I
put
was
it
just
that
gonna
way.
say that's
15
I can't. That's
tractor
wild.
trailer semis
Of wardrobe.
of wardrobe. 600 boxes on each semi. It's insane.
Wait, like
Insane.
So you have to inventory, catalog, organize. 'Cause
Oh, Scott, we don't do any of those inventory things. We just throw it in a box and get it here. And then we kind of sorted it as we unpacked it. It was a mess. It really was a mess up there.
how long does something like that even take?
It took us about a year and a half to unpack it properly, sort it. So we had a warehouse in Pompano off of Powerline Road, and right across the street we had another warehouse. The one warehouse we set up with the proper racking system and so on. And then we had for about 6 months or 8 months, we had 2 spaces. And everything from the semis went into the one space, and then we tried to take all of, quote, you know, guys and dolls out and hang it on new hangers and fresh hangers and, you know, put it into the new space. That's where design and proportion
branding and even all that. Like,
stuff
how
comes
does that
in.
come
So
into-
obviously, you know, I designed the space and we set it up like a big checkerboard so that we would have like a one checker of racks, and the next checker was blank, so we could put a vignette and a display or something in that. And then the whole building was like a big checkerboard.
Okay.
And so the clients meandered through, and it was really cool. We had little vignettes of each show, and Dracula, the Broadway musical, was hanging there, and Passion was there, and Guys and Dolls was there. All these amazing shows. And
Historical
the wardrobes are all just works of art made by artisans in New York City that are just, there's just none
Nothing
like them.
like it.
Nothing like it.
So
So-
how many different plays do you think you have?
We have about 110 original Broadway wardrobes. Some of those are revivals, but most of them are the originals. 99% of them.
Is any one a favorite or that stands out in your
My
mind?
Fair Lady's
My
my
Fair
favorite
Lady, yeah.
wardrobe. And I have to tell you, just having done the current exhibit running in the museum right now, which, you know, people can come and do
I think
a
we saw
luncheon and a
that
tour,
one. Yeah.
is dressing the Edwardians. And the Edwardians highlights the wardrobe from Titanic. And that wardrobe is equally spectacular.
It is so cool.
That era,
That
the Edwardian
era, the
era is
Gilded
just-
Age, they say,
it's
you know?
just, it's very unique and all the details. But back to what I was saying. So that once we opened that, once our warehouse,
Right.
we moved everything into the new space, into the better space, which was the plan all along. Then we started. My mom's like, okay, the rent here is $15,000 a month. Maybe if we had a tour every Monday. You know, people that are theater people would come on a Monday.
I would
All the
think even
actors in town, the
schools could
schools.
find it.
Maybe, you know, we could do like a tour, walk through the space like
so
a tour.
like an admission?
Yeah, have a little admission and see
Okay.
what happens. So we did. We had our first tour on October 10th of 2010. So it was 10-10-10 was our first tour. And it was a group of ladies from Bellagio Country Club. And by the time they left, every single one of these 40 ladies
Became a
had
member.
booked a date to bring their group
Friends.
of 50
Yes,
people.
yes.
And within 2 weeks, our calendar was sold out.
Well, there's so much history that goes along with not just the
Yeah.
show, but the period pieces you just mentioned.
Oh, yeah.
Like all of that.
And
is
there's
so
a lot of really
fascinating.
historic, special individual pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, Yul Brynner's jacket.
I mean, from The King and I.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just crazy. So now we had a museum. I mean, who knew we were going to have a museum? So now we had a museum. I mean, sometimes luck and good fortune just kind of happens.
and hard work.
And hard work. I mean, there's hard work along the way, but So now we have this museum, and, we had all these displays. We were featured on the Today Show. Vogue magazine sent Bruce Weber here to do a piece on us. That was like 12 pages in Vogue magazine. All these crazy things. We won the piece that he did actually won the Fashion Video Award. I had to go to La Jolla and accept the thing on our behalf, the trophy.
The big trophy.
It was, it just like all of a sudden this like world just opened up, and it was just so cool. It
so
really
cool.
was so cool.
It really is.
And
such a wild story.
Such a crazy story. So we operated there for 2 years. And the fire marshal was always on us because we were in a warehouse. And we had a business license, of course, but we did not have an occupancy license.
Okay.
We had to assemble. And you must have an assembly license.
Oh, who knew?
And
I wouldn't
who
know
knew?
that.
At this point, we were
Those
having
are the
like
things you learn as you
75
go.
ladies every day.
But
how did they know?
How did they find out what I mean?
Well, 75
Let me tell you the
ladies, were they busing there? And
No, they would park
Were they
and
meals and all that?
Let me tell you how the only bad fortune that we had in our building, in our facade of our building, the corner unit was the fire department. They saw everybody coming in and out all the time. They would. We became very good friends, but they would walk down there like,
Ladies,
you're
you're
not allowed to do this. I need to remind you that you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to have people sit down and assemble in this building. So we eventually just started looking for a new space. Of course, my sister Kelly's a commercial realtor, and she and residential, but she looked around, and we went to look at 3 spaces one afternoon, and to move the museum, and we looked at one in Pompano and another one in West Pompano or something, and then she said, "Let's go up and look at the Caldwell Theater. Let's just see." There must be a way.
It was empty at that time.
It was not empty. It was not operating.
Right.
The Caldwell folks had closed basically, and the building was available. The bank is who we were dealing with.
Magic, really.
So we go up there
really...
thinking, my mom, we walk around the building, we could do the dining room in here, and we could the auditorium, it could be totally set up like a viewing thing to view all the costume history of costumes, and we started going around and around and around and around. We were there for probably an hour and a half. And we walk back into the auditorium for like the 4th time, and it's my mother, my sister, and I, and the other realtor. And she says, "Girls,
this is it.
I've always wanted to own a theater."
Aww.
And my sister and I looked at each other and we said, "Well, there's no stopping her. She's a dynamo. She's the Energizer Bunny.
When she wants something, her mind's made up.
There's no stopping it." And of course, we were excited about it too. And I've worked backstage at 100 theaters across the Northeast. That's what I've done as a seamstress and a costume designer and all that. It seemed like a natural progression,
Of course.
So they gave us a lease, and it all happened very, very, very quickly. They gave us a lease, and we signed it. And about a week later, this was with the bank.
Right.
A Legacy Bank. We were going to call the theater the Legacy Theater, but
the Wick Theater to me is just
our ladies.
Like your name actually seems magical to me.
I don't know, but it's like a candle.
Yes, that's what I mean. It's like you just want to take it and you see.
Well, the truth is, the ladies like the staff at Costume World named it Costume World.
Yeah.
We had a group of ladies for an event about one of our last events at the old warehouse, and my mom said, "Well, we bought this theater, so now what are we going to name it?" And we sat down with 70 ladies, and between them, myself, my mom, we talked about Legacy because it was owned by Legacy Bank.
Right.
We talked about all these different things, and they all unanimously voted for the Wick. And we really didn't want to call it the Wick.
Oh, I think that's a legacy there.
Yeah, it was just too much, too high profile, but I don't know. It happened. But I have to share with you that a week after we signed
Closed,
everything,
yeah.
and we had this lease. The guys from the bank came and like over to the building, and they saw us like pulling carpet out and doing all this renovation. I mean, it was dreadful. I was like, okay, I said to our contractor guys, I said, the first thing we have to do is get rid of this green carpet, paint out, just primer these yellow mustard walls and rust. That was the color scheme.
Yeah.
All of these images that are all over the walls and framed need to all be collected. We're going to donate those to the Historical Society and or the local cast members that were in these shows. So we put out a thing for them to all come and take these images, these photos and the frames and, take everything. And then we sat down to design
the theater.
the theater. And but the guys from the bank came in and they're like, so tell me some of the shows you've produced. Mom and I looked at each other. We were like, we've never produced a show. He was like, you've never produced a show? We're like, no.
But
He goes, well, what makes you think you can do it? We're like, well, we've been at the table for all these production meetings over the last 20 years. We've worked backstage. Trust me, we got it. So we hired all the directors and we started having auditions and we produced our first show, which was The Sound of Music. And the rest is history. And,
what year was that? How long ago
that was 2013, September.
So the Wick has been, when was the Wick Theater essentially created and purchased? What year?
2013.
2013?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it does go to show you, and of course, I often give a little bit of this little speech, quote unquote, to our patrons when they come, to the theater and when we have these luncheons and stuff with the museum. And I say, I think one of the best takeaways that we all can take from my mother's story, and she's very much alive and very much making more of her life story every day, vibrant and going to town, is that my mother has said to my sister and I a couple of times, we've thought of these ideas for businesses and stuff, and she'll say, girls, what's going on with that? And we're like, well, we were thinking about such and such. And she always says the same thing. Stop thinking.
Do it.
And just do it.
I know. That's how I feel.
And
right, Scott?
And that the worst that can happen is you fail.
I agree.
And then you try something else. I mean, as long as you don't sink your children's, college education into it, as long as you do it with passion and vitality and don't, destroy your life.
And she hasn't done that. I mean, it's been nothing but growth and stepping
stones. But you
stones.
originally purchased the theater because you were looking for a place for a museum for all the costumes for people that come in and see.
Yeah, it was going to be a store open to the public.
But timing being everything. Yeah. I mean, when you realize that magical place was ready for you guys.
Yeah.
It
was beautifully designed by a gentleman named Don McLeod from Miami who does a lot of theaters and so forth. I believe he's retired now, but he designed an incredible building, and the folks, Michael Hall at the Caldwell Theater, nurtured and with passion and commitment to make that building happen. Mm-hmm. And then sadly, he eventually retired after a couple of years, and programming changed. The economy went bust in 2008. It was just a little bad string of events, and it ended up being closed. It sat empty for 2 years.
Which
literally,
isn't great.
The coffee pots had dried coffee in it when we got there.
What an undertaking. So I have been to the Wick Theater, and I know like your mom and you have an office that you share for the most part.
Kind of.
So
sometimes that's
complicated. Look at what your family was able to achieve together. I mean, what was that like? And I mean, you've given us a little glimpse of it, but how did you communicate? What were you guys are clearly...
We're Italian is the first part I'm going to... I know you wouldn't know that by the last name, Wick, but my mother is full-blooded Italian. We were raised like good Italian girls. We're not Catholic, but everything but, with all the guilt and everything included. And we were always like a family unit, and... there's just never any doubt that we can do it. And my mom just is always go, 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 go. I don't know.
I mean, I know.
I mean, it's not always perfect.
Right.
We have screaming matches. Trust me. She usually wins, always. I mean, I think she respects me. I certainly respect her. And, it's not all peachy. I mean,
but
anything. But we
ever
always
is. But
get through
but you're
it.
designing 4 or 5 plays a year. You're creating.
But
producing
along with them is also
and selling.
an experience too.
Right, but then you're also doing, you have the museum that's been going on for years and years.
Every summer we reinvent it, so
Right.
that's always a challenge.
A year or two ago, you really reinvented it with creating an immersive theater.
Yeah.
Which is an experience.
Right, and that came out of, was it both you and your mom went to the Van Gogh experience?
With many of our staff. This was 8 months into COVID, and we were just bored.
So tell us about that. You go to in Miami, right?
We loaded everybody up, masks and hazmat suits practically, and gloves and the whole bit. And we went down to Miami and we went to the Van Gogh. We were like our group was about 7 people. Maybe there were another 10 in the whole building. Mm-hmm. And within 5 minutes of being in there, we all said the same thing. We could take the museum and reinvent that. I mean, we don't have the 20-foot ceilings that they have, but we have 15-foot ceilings.
Right.
So it's, pretty clear it really will feel immersive. And
so for people listening who don't understand immersive, that's basically walking into a room where all 4 walls, you're completely surrounded by high-definition video footage.
Yeah.
Of whatever the story.
Isn't it amazing you created that there?
I'm very proud of it. I really. I think
but,
my mother
but
would
you
be
see it in the Van Gogh, which is LED walls. You go back to your theater with a very big room. It's a big. It's a big risk, a big undertaking.
Yeah, we did it with projections. Actually, the original one was not LED walls. It was fabric. Projection and fabric. Yeah, big Christie projectors and cloth, and we bought all the same stuff.
But it's a huge risk at the same point.
Oh yeah, it was a $700,000 risk.
And an educational aspect of it.
Sure. And it took us a year to make it happen. The night before we opened our first exhibit, the grand opening gala, which I think you guys were at.
Yeah.
For My Fair Lady,
which was fabulous.
It didn't work.
No, we could not get it to not hiccup, for lack of whatever layman's terms.
I remember you saying that, but I didn't experience that.
No, it didn't do it by the time it happened.
Oh,
as coincidence and luck.
I remember that night you telling us. Yeah,
the software that we use is a German-based software company, and it allows you to meld all of these flat images and make them seamless and
around a room 360 degrees.
Yeah, and the technology has now been around for a little while. They're not the only people that do it, but this is one of the better, one of the best companies supposedly. And when we talked to them, we talked to some people in Washington State and then in Germany.
Did you bring a team in to set it all up, or
no? We taught ourselves how to do it because there wasn't anybody that knew it well enough to come in and teach us. Right. Actually, that's not true. We did hire a professor from Gainesville, from University of Florida. He came down and gave us about 3 days, and then a month later, he came down and gave us a week. And we did learn a lot from him as well. But we still couldn't work out some of the kinks. And we called the company on one of our panics, and they said, well, tell me where you are again, with their German accent. I said, well, we're in a town called Boca Raton, Florida. And he goes, well, you must be very lucky. I said, why? He goes, as it turns out, the developer of the software from Germany retired in Boca Raton.
That's
he literally
this is all heaven
sent. Is
that
crazy?
This is kismet stuff.
I know, and he gives you goosebumps a little bit.
It does.
Right.
He literally drove over and assisted us and made it work. He goes, oh no, you can't. It was our audio. The audio, the way we had it recorded and developed it, because obviously it's multi-layers, it was like 32 channels or something. He said the system won't support any more than 8. So you have to manipulate that one and manipulate that, manipulate both of them,
right,
and then marry them. And then through this specific software, it will run. And that's all it took. It's all it took. I mean, it took us 2 hours to do it, but I was a little frazzled when my mom's like, put some makeup on. I'm like, I'm just so glad that it's going to work. I mean, it was something.
So what does the immersive experience, like, how do you develop that and create that each season? And who do you create it for? Obviously, you have your patrons, but then and anybody can also come.
Anybody can come. I mean, we really do kind of develop it every summer, keeping our patrons, the ones that have come year after year after year. I mean, the same group of 70 that came to the first exhibit over in the warehouse and beat up Pompano are still coming annually. They come once a year. It's like an annual outing. A lot of our groups, I find that they, the PAP Corps, the fundraisers, Orts, Hadassahs, the churches, I mean, all these different organizations that raise, do fundraising. It's a perfect venue for them.
It really is.
And it's not just for ladies, by the way.
Right.
Men come all the time and love it. I try to put enough history and enough.
And you do. That's what always captivates me,
I usually write it. I start writing it in my head as the season is winding down.
So that's your process.
Yeah. In my head, I have it already going. Now that the season just ended, just a week ago, I will now sit down and write the script.
And do you incorporate the costumes that you
sure.
own within that?
Yeah, then I go pull what I need to tell the story that I'm trying to tell. And then sometimes I'll see a different costume and I'm like, oh, there's a way to tie that into the story if I rewrite this section. So I spend usually a couple of months playing that producer, director, writer, like playing all those parts, and then I present it to my cohort, my sidekick, my mom, and then I present it to my other sidekick, Mark. Actually, sometimes I present it to Mark Bally first because he and I usually are on the same page, and then we sell it to Mom because she has her own opinion too, and sometimes she doesn't always like everything I do, nor do I her. So we usually come to a nice common spot. For example, this year, my mother really wanted the exhibit to be Titanic only.
Right.
And, I know from writing these now 14 times, I think this is my 14th exhibit,
Unbelievable.
That you can't, it's hard to do it just on one topic. To keep people's attention and to make it full and feel like we've learned a little something, maybe giggled along the way, reminded us of something else. I mean, I want it to be thought-provoking as well as intriguing about the costumes and so on. So I took her Titanic idea, which we talked about, and I brought in some of the historic vintage clothes. Then we go into the costumes. And then we kind of talk about this Edwardian era and what was going on.
Which is such a fascinating era.
Victoria was dead, and now Edward was king, and now everybody was, like, let's have a party. He was the Playboy king. And that's kind of, the wardrobe kind of went by way.
So do you have to do any of your own research along the way, too?
Oh, sure. And then Titanic is the highlight, and the highlight at the end. And the back room is totally set up. There's like a boat in the whole bit.
Yeah. The staircase.
And it's really cool. But doing the research for that, because it's the Broadway show is based on real life people. When you're doing research of a historic piece, it's so easy to jump down the rabbit hole.
Totally.
I mean, it took forever for me to write it. It took 9 years for the writers to write the Broadway show.
Right.
And every character is based on a real person. So the history, I could go on for
I know.
For days.
Even when you go to the
But you started doing these museum exhibits. And it was a walking, talking, and here's some costumes.
Yeah.
Now you've added video, you've added sound, you've...
Immersive.
Yes, you've added...
And there's still the walking, talking element, which I think is cool.
Me too.
And people like it. And, I have a couple of people that give
But some of these you add singing into it, we
have entertainment
music
for every event.
into it.
So when they sit down at the Tavern at the Wick, down in our main dining room, which is... on the wall is a photograph of the Crystal Room at Tavern on the Green.
Right.
And the chandelier from Tavern on the Green is over your head that we bought at auction.
Awesome.
So, that room feels really magical because so many of our guests have had a wedding, an anniversary, a bar mitzvah, something at that beautiful restaurant. And now it's a little slice of it, little piece of it. So yeah, they go down and they have a beautiful luncheon in that space and entertainment on the little stage, and we tell little stories and we answer questions.
So how many nights or days a week is that happening?
Well, in main
during
season,
yeah.
In season, it's almost 7 days a week. Now that we're out of season, it's like twice a week.
Okay.
Because, it's no fun to do it with 10 people, and they don't enjoy it either.
Right.
It's nice to have the interaction and energy
Right.
of other
Of a
people
group,
that are like-minded,
room
that
full
are
of people.
sharing the same
So
experience.
now that it's the new season and you're ready to take on this next, what is your new topic?
I knew you were going to ask.
But the
Or a
when does
peek
the new
into
season
it.
start? In
The
September,
new season
October?
starts in October.
October.
And the museum follows the same calendar as season 12. It'll be our season 12. So I believe that next exhibit is going to be called Behind the Scenes.
Okay.
And
I
it's
like
going to
it.
be
A glimpse.
video. The immersive experience will be like, I think people don't get it. Like, we had to get the rights and pay for the rights for the shows that we're doing this next season.
In the theater.
2 years ago in the theater.
In the
Talking about the
right.
theater.
Yeah,
so those
People
the
don't
plays,
understand.
the Broadway
Yeah.
type plays that you're putting
Yeah.
on, producing, creating.
So how we acquired the stuff, hiring the directors, the choreography, the watching video. I mean, it's going to be all about behind. That's what the museum exhibit is going to be, like the behind the
The
scenes.
business part too, which really
Yeah.
of theater
Yeah,
and
yeah.
production. I
Yeah.
feel like none of us really take that part into account.
I mean, we are not for profit, but we have to run it as a business, or
Right.
we'd be an out of business, not for profit. Because I mean, we still have to make sure that we are making money. We can't spend more than we take in.
Right.
And that's a fine little line, because we have to spend it all too.
Too.
Usually in the summer, we do some upgrades to lighting or sound equipment or something to make up that difference. So
do you go like every day, Monday through Friday, to the theater and do
I work
that
7
days
days
a
a
week?
week.
So you were literally there every day.
I'm there every single day.
It's like
with
literally
very
home.
few exceptions. And by the
Yeah.
way, so is my
Mom.
81-year-old mother.
And you know
She
what?
works
That's why she
every day.
is got so
but
much
you have
fire.
two
She's
big businesses.
so
You've got a
With the-
theater, and then you've got Costume
World is still very much running and
Yeah.
busy. And
so
doing-
is
and
Costume
shipping shows
World
all over the world.
still in its original location? Or
Yes.
Okay.
it's
it is.
where the museum used
to be.
Now it's there. All of our retail stores around the country have all closed. They've all closed.
Okay.
And all that wardrobe is under one roof in Pompano, where
In
the old warehouse used to
Pompano.
be. And I mean, there's some conversation about moving.
Into the Wick.
No.
No.
Moving to that
new
space is
location.
40,000 square feet.
Right. It's a big space.
The theater's only 32,000 square feet, so we need more
Right.
space than that just for the clothes.
Wow.
But that is the parent company.
Okay.
Costume World owns the theater.
Theater.
And of course, the Wick Theater Company is performing there, and that's how we do
Which
it.
production are you doing this year? Has that been
Next year we're doing the
released?
Fantastics is our first
Okay.
show, and then we're doing a musical Christmas Carol,
Oh,
which is the
I gotta
Susan
come and
Stroman
see
version,
that.
and it's got a lot of dancing and high energy. It will be a magical holiday thing to bring the family to.
Too, yeah.
And then My Fair Lady is the January show.
That'll
which will
be huge. So is that your first time doing
Yeah,
My
we've
Fair
never-
Lady?
Yeah. we
As
haven't
the
done
Wick
that.
You've
Company?
never done it, really.
We've never done it. But we know it pretty much inside now.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
we'll be okay. We also own the original Cecil Beaton patterns. So those patterns, we've made costumes over the years from his original patterns.
Which
so
is
we have
such
the copies.
like I mean,
Yeah.
that's you
we
could-
can't use the originals. They're so fragile. I mean, we've displayed them. They can be on a mannequin. Most of them live on a
mannequin.
They never are taken off of the mannequin. Julie Andrews' original ball gown is our insurance stipulates that it's always on display because it's $1 million dress. Yeah. It's always got to be in view. It can't go in storage. Our Lloyd's of London policy.
That's so
Is that crazy?
fascinating.
So when it's not on display, it's in my office. It has a muslin over it, and
Right.
I was going to ask you,
But
how
it's always
do
where we
you
can see it.
protect it, like for lighting and all that good stuff?
I put muslin over it when it's in storage. I mean, it's in the dark, except for the hour that it's lit.
But it seems
during
like
the day.
the collection of costumes that you have, it's such an immense, assortment, and the value must be insane. Are there buyers for it? I mean,
Who knows? I don't know. Somebody want to buy it? It's not for sale, but we'll take some offers.
So like when the ruby red slippers go up for auction, like are those things you guys are interested in and pay attention to?
Well, Debbie Reynolds and my mother did have at least a conversation on the phone before, years before her auction happened. And we purchased about 40 items at the auction. So we have a lot of that film stuff. It's interesting to own that. I mean, it's a different type of historic vibe. When I go in, they're in special dark gondolas, so they're not affected by the light.
Right.
All that kind of stuff. We own Madonna's, one of her costumes from Evita, the film.
Oh, that's one of my favorite films, too.
And her underwear.
That's so avant-garde.
Crazy.
Last summer we were in Paris.
Yeah.
And we went to a couple different places. What was the one fashion house that we
Oh,
went
the
to?
Dior
Dior.
Museum.
So, we went through the tour there of all of his.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, it was amazing going through 5 floors.
Oh, yeah.
Of just seeing all their iterations and all the things that he created.
Well,
yeah.
even to
and people who
see-
wore things.
And the eras, watching the era changes and all that.
Correct. But with what you have, it's currently not, there's no you don't really have a museum where people could go and spend a 3-hour.
I guess the store is that. But, I mean, there's a museum now in the Broadway Museum in New York that you can see some of that stuff, And our museum still is trying to keep the integrity of the original way we did it, where you saw the rows of costumes with displays in front of them and stuff like that. But it's
So do they let you hold the museum in the costume world? Are you allowed to assemble there?
no, the old costume world. It's just a regular store. I mean,
Gotcha,
Regular
okay.
business license.
Gotcha.
Nobody's sitting down there.
Gotcha. Okay.
Besides at the desk.
And is that open 7 days a week?
In the summer, it's open 5 days a week. Often they're working 7 days because we do a lot of summer stock, and that means we're shipping shows all over the country. I think 500 costumes left yesterday.
So how many employees are there?
20. Less
That's
than 20.
I mean,
It's not that many. 10, probably. About 10, yeah.
500 costumes.
Yeah.
So who manages that?
My mother.
Unbelievable.
Every day. Yeah.
Unbelievable. What a force.
Yeah, it's
So what do you see, what's next? Clearly you didn't foresee
You're
the
continually
theater
evolving.
or
You're continually.
You
well, we have
definitely
to
are.
all evolve. I mean, we all know that. I mean, and it's important. I mean, I have this little thing in my kitchen that hangs over the sink. It says, "Do it now or forever wish you had."
Well, I feel like, yes.
And you just have to do it.
Do it. I
mean,
agree.
that's why I bought a historic house
In New York.
Western New York, which I'm restoring, which is so much fun. And that's why we did the museum when we did it. That's why it's like, when are we going to do this immersive thing? If we don't do it now, we probably won't be able to afford the technology 10 years from now.
And it's so
I
amazing.
mean, if we, my mother said several times,
Such
if we don't
foresight.
buy these wardrobes, somebody else will,
Will.
and then they're our competition.
Yeah.
So you just have to keep on going. All of us have to.
So as because I feel, for me, I'm not I don't understand. I mean, I'm kind of new to Broadway. I shouldn't say new, but I you go to New York, you see shows. I mean, I love Phantom of the Opera being my favorite ever.
Oh, sure.
It's how do, I feel like now too, there's so many new shows that come and go so frequently. Was that something that you can adapt into the theater too? Some of these?
Well, I mean, as far as the Wick Theater, the programming is complicated. First of all, we only have 300 seats. And most theaters around us and near us within 50 miles have thousands of seats or 600 or 700 seats.
Right.
So what happens is, we want to do one of these new works. Let's say we want to do something new that's on Broadway right now and it's going to close. Well, we bid on it. We put our offer in to take the show, and as soon as they see we have 300 seats, they say no. They want it going to a theater with 800 seats because the royalties are stronger. Obviously, they get paid based on, those royalty checks are a lot of money. Yeah, $150,000 almost for every show, right off the top. So you have to put a lot of folks in seats to make all that fly. So we tend to do because the limitations of how many seats we have and what we can afford to do with 300 seats. Also, people don't understand. I can't have a cast of 28 on the stage and a 8-piece band. I mean, we can't afford it with 300 seats.
Yes,
so we use the highest quality tracks that are available, and trust me, I've had people come up to me and say, "Where was the orchestra?" And I'm like, "Oh, they weren't here. They were in a box in New York, and we put them in our, in the machine."
Right.
So, but also those 300 seats are the reason why our theater thrives, why people compare us to Broadway all the time. There's an intimacy about the space, the way it was designed.
I agree.
You just feel enveloped in the show. Yep. The stage is big, the auditorium, there's not a bad seat, that goes without saying.
It's very
big 25-inch seats, not 18 like they are on Broadway. I mean, you got a full seats. An adult person, full-figured person can sit down and not feel like they're, a sausage in a can. So it's...
Well, every seat is an orchestra seat.
Yeah.
Every seat in the theater is...
Yeah.
Which if you go to the, Kravis or any of these others, you got to be in the first 10, 15 rows.
Or you may as well have just phoned it in.
It's so true.
Yeah. So that really adds to the whole
Do you
design.
see adding to the theater, like buying another theater?
No. I
This
hope
is your
not.
baby.
Don't give my mother any ideas.
I don't think there's any around.
I know. But, also that intimacy is one of the reasons why the sets are so important. And the casting is so important. And the costumes are so important. Because they're not at the Kravitz up in the grand tier in the back.
Right. You can appreciate
everybody
every detail.
can see all of those details. And, over the years I've become a set painter and I have more pairs of pants that have paint on them than I have pairs of pants that don't have paint on them.
No, you're a true designer in so many aspects.
You really are.
From a costume designer to a set designer to a theater designer.
And we do
hire. You're also an interior designer. You're working on restoring, old homes.
Yeah. It's multi-leveled. Like we said, everything we do in life is somehow associated with design.
Have you ever thought and sat there and said, "I wish I had done this in life," or have you always been really content with the theater? And
I have a great picture, and nobody else would know that it's me except for me. But I have two fabulous pictures. I actually sent them to be printed. I'm going to put them in this house up north. One is a fabulous picture of my cousin when she was about 6 years old. We were in Paris, and it's you can see, the Eiffel Tower in the background and on the Champs-Élysées or something, and she's got her arms out big as life. And this child shows, like in that picture, so you can tell so much about her emotion. And now she's my incredibly talented artistic cousin who has a fabulous career and owns a restaurant with her husband, and she's just this amazing creative person, and she's an artist and a this and a that. And you know what? That picture of her at 7 years old says all of those things.
Yeah.
I have another, and so I've got that's being blown up to go on the wall, neatly framed, and I have one of myself, which I don't, unless you knew my baby picture, you probably wouldn't know it was me, nor would you know it was Nicole. But I'm wrapped up in one of my mother's beautiful brown and black, beautiful creamy silk scarves. My mother always was a
very
fine
stylish
dresser. and I'm doing like a pirouette, and I've got the scarf wrapped around me, and it's flowing away, and my head is up, and I look at that picture, and I'm like, I've really always been, and I was, I have another scarf tied around my arm.
Yeah.
I was designing at
Yeah.
like 6 years old.
Right.
And both of those pictures, when I look at them, I think I've grown into that girl.
Oh,
Nicole
I
has
love
grown
that.
into that girl that embraces life, and I think some of these things are just innate.
They really
I'm sure they
are.
are. You're an
I do
incredible
too.
designer.
I know,
I'm
and
sure
I
it's
was like
right in
that
your
as
bones.
a kid too.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, always was arranging everybody's stuff and
yeah.
always organizing and
Yeah.
making it in some display fashion that was beautiful.
Yeah. What's your
You know.
excuse, Scott? No, just teasing. Well, you're the smart man that married this beautiful woman, so she could design your life. Yes. So,
love
yeah,
that.
but I when I look at those pictures, and I've had them, all my life, they've been right there. And I was in Paris when that picture was taken with it, and we were all together on a family thing. But I look at those things, and I see us. I see my cousin, and I see me.
And you're proud of you.
Yeah, I'm proud of me. Sure,
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, I
Days
love
want
that.
to go, just not retire, but just run away. I just want to run away to my old house.
Right? Which you'll get to do.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really
So I've known you
special.
forever.
Yes.
Forever.
Should we tell them the story about the road race?
I was running my grocery stores and came up with this crazy idea because, I don't know if I ever told you this, someone from the city of Boca Raton came to the Woolley's grocery store and was telling us that they were doing the Boca Festival Days. It was this new thing to promote the economy and getting people out in the summertime. Because back then, everyone left and it was a ghost town in
You
Boca.
could lay down on Palmetto Park
I know,
Road.
it's different,
Car wouldn't even
right?
go by.
And I
We
was
moved here
like,
in 72.
I'm a grocery store. We want to do a Boca Festival Days. And they were like, well, come up with something. And I always loved cars and had a bunch of cars and was driving home one night and thought, what about a road rally? And I had just recently at that time, I think it was Burt Reynolds, one of those movies that came out about Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah, Smokey and the Bandit or
one of
something.
those things came out, Cannonball Run.
Yeah.
And I had a friend and I said, hey, let's do a road rally. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
I said, you're running a grocery store. And I said, we'll do it on the side.
Yeah.
And we put this whole thing together, which was a crazy...
Brilliantly did it. Like a scavenger hunt.
I know, how fun.
It was a full day
Those were
of
the days you could do
600
stuff
cars
like that.
and like 1,200, 1,400 people, all paid to enter.
Yep, we all
And it was
paid.
kind of a race on the streets.
Yep.
It was like 4 hours long.
And that's how you met?
Well, no.
Listen, wait, tell the punchline.
We were organizing. Tim Fargo, who I haven't seen in years, great guy. We were organizing the thing, and this woman gets out of this car, a slant-nosed Porsche, probably $160,000
At the time.
At the time, this is like in the 80s.
Yeah.
And we were like, wow, who's this woman? Who's this? Because this beautiful woman gets out of the car, and she walks over and says, and I'm looking at the car going, oh my God. I go, is this your boyfriend's car? She's like, my boyfriend? No, this is my car.
I love it. Don't you love that?
And I was like,
See, it pays
every
to
guy
do
that
Santa
I knew
costumes
would have
at
died
9.
to have that car. And you're like, do you guys need some costumes? I got some ideas to like really make this thing fun. It sounds like a cool idea.
Yeah.
You're like, what do you mean costumes?
You are such an entrepreneur too, really.
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah.
So you brought all these costumes.
All these costumes that people, it was really fun.
I'm like, what
And
are we
then
going to do? What are we going to do with costumes? We're driving. We got like, and Tim's like, I think we got like almost 600 cars signed up for this thing. And Kim, we were like, people will have a blast. And they did. People went crazy for the costumes.
And the costumes were so much fun. And
It makes things.
I mean, we ended up entering the race, and it was 4 of us girls, and we all dressed as like aviators. We had
love
aviator
it.
goggles and little helmets, and of course our cute little
Outfits.
we were all 20 little figures, and little bathing suits on under with our little jumpsuit thing. And who won the race?
You did.
We won. Can you believe it? The four of us girls won
Yes, I
the
can.
race.
Believing. Yes,
We
I would bet on a Wick
There
any
were like
day.
600 cars. I remember there was people who they rented a stretch limousine.
Oh, yeah, all kinds of
And I
crazy.
remember you had like, I don't know if it was like a polar bear or some kind of costume that was a bear or something.
Yeah, there were. We brought lots of costumes.
People were wearing all these Frankenstein costumes. And,
Yeah.
And I was like, this is really bizarre. Like someone's going to get in an accident with these costumes on.
what?
And people were like crazy over it.
And you guys brilliantly did the scavenger part of it because, we had to go from point to point.
You brought some ideas in because at the time, Michael Keaton, the Batman movie was really big. And you were like, because we had different places where you had to figure out the clues.
Yeah.
And it was all sorts of fun clues. But then there were places, like a clue was, go ask Batman where the next turn is.
Yeah.
And you're like,
So
what's that? But you helped.
We had
costume
Batman
out a
dressed.
guy.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was.
And you would drive down like Federal Highway
And
or
there would be
Glades Road.
Batman, and you'd stop your car, go get the next clue, and go to the next place. It was really brilliant. You guys did an amazing.
Fun.
And of course, we had a little advantage because we'd lived here all since
you knew your
'72.
way around.
We really knew our way around, and they had some clues that. And Brian Newsom was helping too.
Yes. Well, Brian and Mark, they dressed up as banditos, like Mexican banditos, and they were smart enough. They got dressed up with the Mexican costumes and the guns and stuff, and then they went to Pompano to the Frito-Lay
There
plant.
used to be a plant
And
there.
they with the Frito-Lay distributor. It was like in Pompano or Deerfield. And somehow Brian Newsom talked them into the fact that they were going to promote Frito-Lay and give it out. And they
gave bags of Frito-Lay?
Mark was driving a Porsche 911, and Frito-Lay completely filled the convertible 911 Porsche with Fritos. And they would drive down the road during this race, and the Fritos were flying out. And they were giving Fritos out, and they were called the Frito Banditos. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
What great time.
It was so crazy. And again, the four of us girls won. There were some guys that were not happy about it.
Oh yeah, there were
They
a
were
lot.
really ticked.
And there was a huge party at the
Bounty Lounge, which is
They gave
now
out
the Wyndham.
trophies. It was a big pool party.
So funny.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
those are good memories.
Oh,
The
great
costumes,
memories.
like
And I think we got like a $5,000 prize, which we donated to something. I can't. There was a benefactor to it, wasn't it?
Yes.
Diabetes or
I can't remember.
something,
It
but
may
we
have been the
donated
Tim
that.
Snow Foundation, like his first
Oh, it might have
or
been.
second year.
Oh, might have been the
Because
Snow
Tim
Fountain.
wrote in it. and-
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know we were like, we all looked at each other and we were like, we can't accept it, and we
Yeah,
obviously
you did.
donated.
I remember. Yeah, you
we
did donate it. No, we had trophies.
But
and,
you had bragging
Oh, and I
rights.
still had the trophy until like not that many years ago.
Oh, that is so
I was like,
cute.
it's time.
It's so
It's time
cute.
to go. It was tall and it had a car on the top.
Oh my goodness.
we designed a poster, Tim and I, and which we put all over
So then it
Boca to
must have been
promote it.
the
And then
Snow
this
Foundation.
woman who was a small little ad agency, I can't remember her name, in Delray, she helped us with doing some promotion. She submitted the poster, and it was my first Addy for design that I won an award for design before I ever got into the television business.
You're always
how
designing.
cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
love
I wish I
that.
had one of those.
I know. Well, speaking of,
And Costume World was my place I went to for
for years.
Years, yeah.
It is
I
still
used to
a fun
throw
experience.
I used to throw the Halloween party for the Florida Panther hockey team,
Uh-huh.
and used to get all the stuff from Costume World.
I know. And Mrs. Huizinga used to come and get, like, she would call us and order like 8,000 rats.
Oh, that's so
I
funny.
mean,
well-
I
and then-
remember that
yep.
time. The rats.
I can tell you the whole story behind that is with the rats. I was one of myself and another guy, Dave Fouillon, were the ones that Mrs. Huizinga brought the rats, which no one was ever supposed to know. We distributed them, Dave and I, and got a couple of friends, and we distributed them throughout the arena, giving them to fans. And then I had a conversation with Mr. Huizinga after like the second game of doing it, that he should go get a sponsor, get one of the what do you call it?
We have tons of corporate sponsors.
No,
Concession?
No. Who's the companies you hire, like Orkin and Hewlett? And
Oh, that's right. I remember.
Exterminators.
Exterminators.
I said to him, I said, you
remember
should get an
that.
exterminator. And he ended up getting a deal with Orkin.
I remember that.
And basically the guys who went and cleaned it up wore Orkin exterminating shirts and hats as a sponsorship. But then all the rats would get collected. They would be brought downstairs and put in a closet. And then Dave and I and a couple of friends would
Distribute
go to
them
the
again.
closet and distribute them back into the arena.
Oh my
funny.
God.
And then it got shut down because the NHL basically was going to fine the team if it continued.
If they continue the rubber on the
So
the
now I
ice.
know where they got the rats from.
They got them from us.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
funny.
The first time she called, she ordered, and Mom and I talked about that not that long ago. She personally called and ordered like 400.
Well, they didn't. She didn't want anyone to know because she basically pulled Dave and I off to the side and said, "Listen, the rats are going to be put into this closet. You don't tell anyone about this. I don't know anything about this, and no one else does. And don't get caught."
They have fun energy too. They
Yeah,
liked-
and she really created
I
that.
don't want to get her in trouble.
No, that's so
no. It
cute.
was very
No,
cool.
unfortunately,
so
both
cute.
of them are gone.
I know. Yeah.
They were very dear people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting. My fiance works at Panther Stadium now. It's like,
Oh, that's
does he?
so
funny.
crazy. Yeah, he's in engineering and all that stuff. Responsible for the ice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and with others, but
Wow.
But it's so funny. It's like, oh gosh, it's just come full circle.
It really is. Well,
So season starts at the Wick
in October.
in October, and you've
And-
got 4 or 5
Oh yeah, I didn't
shows,
finish our show. I didn't finish the lineup. So Fantastics is first, and
and it
then
runs for about 4 weeks, right?
Yeah,
So for
yeah, each
people
of them-
who
yeah.
want to check it out,
and they can go to thewick.org, and our lineup is there.
There.
Yeah.
You can't buy single tickets yet. We're still
Okay.
in our subscription drive.
Okay.
But that usually ends by the 4th of July. So it's
so
only a couple.
subscription drive is what?
That's what folks that buy all 5 shows.
Okay.
So
Oh,
it's
okay.
discounted, and
I
they
love that.
always sit in the same seats. And we have a lot of loyal subscribers. They don't care what we do, but they want
Right.
to see it.
yeah.
Right.
But next year is the Fantastics is first, which by the way ran for like 40 years on off Broadway and Broadway. So it's a great show. And then a musical Christmas
Right.
Carol.
I'm definitely
And then
My
My
Fair
Fair Lady.
Coming for
and
that,
then
too.
Camelot,
Ooh.
which will be incredible.
Incredible.
And then the last show is Cher. And I tell people
fabulous.
I tell people on stage when I'm doing my curtain speech all the time. I know a lot of folks in the neighborhood have seen it at Kravitz, but I promise you it will be better at the Wick.
But I
And that's
understand.
the
But I
truth.
understand you own some of her.
We own the original Broadway clothes, which you did not see at the Kravitz, trust me. And we're going to, the display next year in the museum, hopefully the Cher wardrobe, the Bob Mackie wardrobe will be the highlight.
I
will
mean,
be
and
the,
all these designers that you can someday build one of your.
exhibits on.
big
Yeah.
exhibits.
I mean, William Ivey Long is another big one. I mean, his stuff is
Have you
everywhere.
thought about putting a coffee book together of all these?
Yeah, you got some time? You can set it
I
up.
know.
I know.
It really.
No,
there's
it's-
so much
there's
to do.
so much
God
to
bless.
do, and it's just
the details.
all the details.
design and the details.
I mean,
know.
I say all the time, we really need to hire, 5 more
But have
really.
they been photographed? Has everything been photographed?
A lot of it was for. We used to have a professional little studio area set up, and we would photograph all the time because we do obviously have an online presence. Pardon me. So it's important to have those images, but yeah, I mean, a coffee table book would be amazing. It would.
There'll be one eventually.
My mother needs to write her life story too.
She does.
And by the way,
This
you
is
need to
so
produce the film.
passionate. I love that.
I mean,
that's a great. I agree.
It's
special.
it is really
it's a great,
really
inspiring
unique story, and it is so multi-leveled.
It
But I didn't
is.
really. When I started writing my bio, I have a bio that we use, in the playbill,
Yeah.
for the stuff I do, and it's so old. I really need to go redo it. But I started trying to write my bio to send just something over to you guys, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize I'd done that. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh yeah, I have built like 12, 14 spec homes. Yeah. Oh yeah, and I did. Oh, and I did do that. And you do kind of when life is zipping along.
It's so true.
And I'm not really so ego driven that I'm think
Both-
about that
yeah,
stuff all the time. I mean, I'm surrounded by a mother that is, which is okay. It's better that she is and I'm not.
I love it. I love it.
And just wouldn't trade her for anything in the whole
I know.
damn world.
What a ride,
Yeah,
right?
What a ride.
What a ride.
But yeah, I mean, you sometimes look back and reflect on, wow.
Yeah.
You were born and then we die, and the middle is the dash.
The dash, yeah.
This is the dash.
This is your dash.
Our dash. We're all working on our dash.
Well, you're doing a great job on your dash, and thank you for sharing. Just I feel like a smidgen. I could talk to you all day.
we could keep on going. Oh my gosh. Okay, so part 2 and 3 will be filmed at a later time.
Yes, so stay tuned.
Oh gosh.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This is a lot of fun.
iDesign.
I mean, this has been great.
Special. Thank you.
Thank you.
iDesign Labs podcast is an SW Group production in association with the 5-Star and TW Interiors. To learn more about iDesign Lab or TW Interiors, please visit twinteriors.com.